The Detroit Red Wings and Filip Zadina are terminating the 23-year-old's contract. What led to this? What could it mean for Detroit? What could it mean for Zadina? We'll discuss the whole situation coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have some pretty interesting news from the NHL. It's come to knowledge here that Detroit and Zadina are mutually agreeing to terminate the young player's contract. Now, Zadina is 23 years old. He was the 6th overall pick not long ago in 2018. Of course, during the draft process leading up to it, he was a very highly touted prospect. Many ranking systems had him ranked anywhere from like number 2 to number 5. He was not expected to make it as low as 6, but he did. Obviously, Darlene Svechnikov ended up going 1-2. Kotkaniemi to Montreal is kind of what threw everything off. Kotkaniemi by many was regarded as likely being the top center in the draft. Many wasn't sure at that point for sure if Brady Tkachuk was going to be a winger, because he did play some center at the younger levels in a BU, although he mainly projected to be a power forward winger, but he had, there wasn't quite certain on that. But for the most part, Kotkaniemi was, for sure going to be a center, and was viewed upon as being the highest rated guy. Montreal was very lacking depth, you could say, at that position, and they kind of, a lot of people felt they went off the board a little bit. Kotkaniemi was, by many other draft ranking services, ranked to be like, definitely probably in that 7 to 10 range. They take away at number 3, throws everything off. Brady Tkachuk falls to Ottawa at 4, and then Zadina slips further, going number 6 to Detroit. So obviously, things didn't go his way. I know Zadina really thought he was going to end up going to Montreal. Never happened. So during his time in Detroit here, he's kind of had a bit of an up and down rocky relationship, you could say, with the team. Gone through a couple of different coaches, but right now, for sure, he and the team have mutually agreed to terminate the contract. So he's technically on unconditional waivers. Another team could pick him up, but that never happens. When it's for this purpose, it doesn't make any sense for a team to pick him up, because once this clears tomorrow, he'll be an unrestricted free agent. If a team really wants to bring on Filip Zadina onto their organization, they can sign him for a much cheaper contract starting tomorrow and get a better deal. So that only makes sense. So he's not going to get picked up. The contract will be terminated, and Detroit will be without their former first-round pick in 2018, and he'll be a UFA. But as I said, I want to take a quick look at what led to this and what does it mean for both sides. It says he's 23. He'll be 24 during next season. He's been part of 5 seasons with Detroit. The first season after being drafted in 18-19, he got his 9-game sample size, put up 3 points. You could tell he wasn't quite ready for the NHL, but went down to the AHL, which he was eligible to do since he was a European-born player. He played his junior hockey in the Halifax Mooseheads organization, and he played in Europe, came over for his draft-eligible season in the QMJHL for Halifax. I know I saw Zadina play in person a few times myself, was quite impressed, but knew that obviously there's a few things to work on. Thought he was a very talented player, but a little bit of a perimeter player. And I knew that might be an issue going to the NHL, but a lot of junior age players have things to work on. I didn't really think it would impact him as much as it has. But he went down to the American Hockey League, and he had a real solid year, put up 35 points in 59 games as a rookie in his first pro season. I thought that was really good. His next year, he comes back. He dealt with a bit of a time getting a little bit of injury, a little bit of getting scratched a bit at the NHL level. Put up 15 points in 28 games, certainly better than a 9-game sample size. Still played in the AHL as well, played in 21 games, put up 16 points, so still a productive AHLer, and had some success at the NHL. So things, in my opinion, looked like they were at least trending in the right direction. I thought year 3 was going to be prime for him to break out. Now, of course, it's not year 3 was contract, because the first year was he still got the ELC slide because he only played 9 games. Year 3, he plays 49 games, put up 19 points. That's not really a step forward. He only had 4 more points than the year before, but he played in 20 more games. So certainly it's a little bit of a step back, but it's also not that unusual to see what you'd call like a sophomore slump. I don't know if you really want to call it that per se, because he didn't play a full season, but still I thought maybe that's what's going on here. He did play a bit in Czechia during the pandemic stoppage of play because things opened up over in Europe before they did North America. So at least he wasn't coming back to Detroit after things opened back up in the NHL, and it was completely without any ice or action for an extended time more than some players. So then he comes back, has year 4 which is technically his third full season in pro hockey, so it's the end of his ELC. So he's playing for a contract at this point. He appears in 74 games. Detroit used him as a regular and put up 24 points. So again, not really a step forward. Like, the point totals go up, yes, but he had a lot more games to get it done. So certainly that's not what you want to see. You know, obviously the bulk of this time it's under head coach Jeff Blashill. His ELC ends. Detroit makes a coaching change, bringing in Derek Lalonde, the former assistant in Tampa. Different style. Obviously some different coaching that he would have been giving him. He signs a 3-year extension. They obviously signed this extension with the projection of what they thought he could be, because he gets a 3-year deal with an AAV of $1.8 million. I don't really think he's earned anything at that point, and I don't think he earned a 3-year contract, and I don't think he earned that AAV. To me, this was, looking back in retrospect, it is certainly not a great signing. This is one of the Yzerman's not so good points, like one of the mistakes he made, but at the end of the day, he's getting out of it, I guess, without many repercussions. But I think a shorter term deal, maybe like a 1 year, $1 million, or even a 1 year, $800K, something like that would have been better, I think, to have him continue to prove himself. But they didn't do that. So after signing this contract extension, he goes and he plays 30 games and puts up 7 points. Now, he did deal with injuries as well. Obviously his spot in the lineup changed. There was obviously some new personnel came in. Yzerman went free agent shopping. There were certainly some different lineups that he was used to previously. Did play a couple of games in the AHL, but I believe that was more on a rehab assignment type of deal. And then after the season, we learned just recently that around the time of the draft or beforehand, that he had talked to the team between he and his agent and wanted a trade. Apparently, Yzerman tried and negotiated around with a bunch of different teams trying to find a trade for him and couldn't find one that I guess that Yzerman felt made sense. Now, were teams willing to take him on? I have my doubts, just because of the contract, not because of the player. If he was signed for $800,000-$900,000, I think this would be a lot easier, but it's not. At the end of the day, Yzerman then puts Zadina on waivers a few days ago, and when he explains it to the media, he says that Zadina had asked for a trade. We tried to accommodate. Things didn't work out. At this point, we're kind of at a loss here. They were insisting on getting a fresh start somewhere else, so I thought I'll put him on waivers. We'll give another a team an opportunity to pick him up essentially for free, and he can get his fresh start, and I hope that things work out for him. Well, he didn't get picked up. And again, like I said, it's not that teams I don't think would take a chance on the player. It's all because of the contract. Teams are very tight on cap space after having such a flat cap for the last 4 or 5 years here, obviously due to the pandemic. And they just don't have the room. It's just quite that simple. Like I said, the team signs Zadina on a proven contract, 1 year deal at under $1 million. I think they will. I can't see why not. How could he can find a spot? Does he have to take a 2-way deal? Maybe it ends up being a more lucrative 2-way deal. I don't know. I'm sure he can get a contract of some sort, go to training camp and try to prove himself all over again. I have no doubt that can happen. Just not at that price tag. It's just a shame because this is a bit of a fall from grace. Because of all of this, though, you got to remember, he's not getting bought out by the team. Detroit had that option. I'm surprised in a way they didn't take it because obviously when that buyout window opened, I would think Yzerman likely know. Of course, we don't know the exact timing that Zadina and his agent made the trade request known to the team and Yzerman. But if he knew, you would think that it'll be a 1/3 buyout instead of a 2/3 buyout. Yes, it impacts your cap an extra couple of years, but it really would have been a lot, fairly cheap for the team to do. But I guess he probably thought he could make a trade. I don't know. Anyways, at the end of the day, he's not getting bought out. This is a mutual agreement for termination. So all the money that's left owing on this deal, he's forfeiting this money to bet on himself. There's about $4.5 million in real actual cash left in this contract. So he's forfeiting a lot of actual money. Now, I think this is going to do a couple of things. We know the Detroit Red Wings have been actively talking to the Ottawa Senators for on and off again for some time regarding Alex DeBrincat. We know DeBrincat appears like he doesn't want to sign long-term in Ottawa, so they've decided to move the player in order to protect their interests and to get somebody in return so they can move along. He's from Michigan, so Detroit, it would be like home for him. It seems like a preferred place to play where he would actually do a long-term deal. There's been all kinds of off and on again negotiations with other teams. Nothing's working out. And it seems inevitable by a lot of insiders and reporters that that's ultimately where he is going to end up. So I know that in a lot of the negotiations and rumors we've been hearing about the two teams talking about to bring it, that Zadina was often included in this trade. Yzerman, I think, was trying to push Zadina in the deal, and Dorian likely didn't want him, at least on that price tag. So obviously now that Detroit's freed up some more cap space, because that comes right off their books, they don't have any kind of cap penalties, which gives Yzerman more flexibility to take on a player like DeBrincat. So that should help those trade negotiations go along. It also doesn't force Yzerman to try to push him on to Dorian, because that wasn't working, and they can figure out another package that works for both sides. So that theoretically should push along this trade negotiation for Alex DeBrincat, get that deal done, hopefully get DeBrincat to Detroit, get a good package that Ottawa actually likes. And they are rumored to also be looking at some free agents to round out their roster, but they need to know their cap situation without DeBrincat. And because if they have to sign DeBrincat for 1 year, then that's going to eat up a lot of money because he's an RFA. They have an arbitration hearing that's going to be coming up here in a few weeks' time if they don't get a trade done. So like they need to know what's going on before they get to finish the roster. It's got a lot of things on hold. And this Zadina mutual termination might actually move a lot of that along, get this logjam of getting some free agents into Ottawa, get the DeBrincat trade done to Detroit, and it just could kind of create a little bit of a domino effect. At least I think it has that possibility. So we'll have to wait and see where Zadina ends up next. I don't know, but I'm sure a team around the NHL will give him an opportunity, and I hope for his sake that he can get the most, get a good opportunity, make the most of it, and get his NHL career back on track, and at least, re-earn this money that he's leaving on the table to bet on himself. Like I said, I've seen him play enough times in person, and of course on when he was younger as well on TV to know that he's a good player. There's a lot of talent there. I think he just needs the right situation, the right teammates, right coach. Sometimes you just never know. It happens a lot in pro sports where a team gets a player a fresh start and they just take off. So maybe that will be fortunate for Zadina this time around. Let me know your thoughts on this situation down in the comments. If you think it'll have like a domino effect with other transactions waiting to take place like I do, and we'll talk about it further in the comments. Make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news around the entire NHL. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.